So, good morning, everybody. So, yesterday was my first day going back up Stone Mountain. Now, I haven't been up Stone Mountain since about October, November timeframe. And let me tell you, it was hard. I went so slow up that mountain, slower than I've ever been. It was almost like starting over. Matter of fact, it was like starting over last year when I first started going up Stone Mountain and running down. My body ached, my back was hurting, my knees were hurting. All these different things, everything that was reminiscent to when I first started. And then as I got to the very end and I was climbing up the last portion of it, you at the last portion of the mountain, you got two very steep inclines. And the first steep incline, when I was in the middle of it, now I used to run up this part. I used to run up and then I didn't touch the rails, and I would run and I would race my son. And the thing about it is, as I was going up at this time, I found myself pulling myself on the rail, holding on to the rail, getting halfway and stopping for a moment and looking back and thinking, I can't do this, that this is too difficult, that maybe I need to work my way back into it. But then I just decided, no, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And so I made it up that first steep incline. And then if you've done this before, you just got a little bit of room before you start the last steep incline. And so I started the last steep incline. And usually at this point, I'm trucking up it. It's the final piece. I'm going hard. I'm going strong. But yesterday, it wasn't like that. Yesterday, all I could say was a lamp unto my feet, one step at a time. I couldn't look at the apex of it and say that that's where I'm going. All I could do was just look 2 feet ahead of me and say, I have to make it there. And then I get there and I look 2 feet ahead of me and I say, I have to make it there. And then I get to that space and I say, 2 feet ahead of me, I have to make it there. And eventually I got to the top. And it was exhausting. And then on the way back down, I ran down. And usually I run down pretty easily, pretty gingerly. But I felt every step. My knees cracked on every step. I felt my body weight come down on every step. And it was very difficult. And I came down so much slower than I normally would have in the past. And what I want you guys to understand is that it's all about momentum. You see, had I never stopped going up Stone Mountain, or even when it got too cold for me, where I was comfortable to go up Stone Mountain, if I had found a substitute method to keep my body in shape for going up that mountain, had I, spent time on a treadmill on an incline, or if I had just said, you know what, it doesn't matter if it's wintertime, it doesn't matter if it's cold. I'm not crop where I have to shrink in the wintertime. I'm a human. I have reason. I have will. I have, decisions that I can make. All right? I have free will to decide what season it is. If I had thought that way and kept going up the mountain, guess what? It would not have been a start over. My momentum would have never stopped. And then what this makes me think about, there's so many applications in life, but there's two I want you guys to get. Two. All right. The first one is in your work. In your work, as you build your financial empire, in your work. When you first started your job, you came in and you was hitting it. You had momentum. When you first started your company, you were excited and you had momentum. And then what happened is that after a time, you start slowing down here. You start not being as aggressive there. You don't focus on your business or your work as much as you should. Now you're spending more time talking. You're not made a little bit. So now you figure you can relax, instead of saying, no, I got to keep this momentum going. Because what happens is that if you don't, all of a sudden you slow down and things fall back, and now you got to try to start it over. You got to try to rev it up again. But it's just like going up that mountain and you haven't been doing it in a while. It hurts. It's difficult. You get to points where you say, well, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe God doesn't want me to have this. Maybe he shut the door. No, he didn't shut the door. You shut the door because you slowed it down. You lost your momentum. It's like when you get to that job and you start out there, you're doing well. You get to work on time. You do the work. You dress properly. You make sure you hit all your assignments. And then you start hanging around the water cooler. Then you start talking to the people who've been there for a long time. And then next thing you know, you turn into one of those people. What's the little saying that, the people that you hang around is the person that you will become. So you start hanging around those people. And then all of a sudden, now you're on report. Now you're getting write-ups. Now you're getting verbal. Now your annual recommendations are less than what they should be. Now your ability to get promoted starts to shrink, and nobody wants you to get promoted. Now you are on the edge. You're on the fringe of being fired. Why? Because you stopped. You had that momentum when you came in the door and you lost it. Now, the second thing, relationships. I see couples, they come into my store and they've been dating. It's this one couple in particular. They've been dating for 9 months. 9 months. And I mean, they're all over each other. They're laughing. They're having a good time. They just, oh, it's so nice. It's really nice. And it does my heart well to see it. But then I see these other couples, they come in the door and they've been married for like 30, 40 years and they barely speaking to each other. It's like it's business. It's business as usual with them. Most people sit up here and will say, well, that's just how life happens. That's how marriage is. You know, praise them for their longevity. We'll have a conversation about that later. But praise them for their longevity. I say no. I'm not praising them for their longevity. I know too many couples who've been married for 20 and 30 years and they are horribly sad. They are in a situation where they are teetering on depression if it wasn't for the routine and the knowledge that I know that person's going to be there and I know exactly what they're going to do, and it's comfortable. It's manageable pain. But they're miserable. Their life is not happy. There's no excitement. They have little minor points here and there where they're excited, but that's it. And it's too many of them now. Yes, there are couples who have been married 20, 30 years and they are just like, it's just as fresh as it was when they first start dating. But who is to say that it has to stop? Why does it has to stop? Why does the momentum has to stop? Who cares if it's November and it's cold outside? Grab a blanket, wrap up with each other. Keep the fire going. I'd rather listen to a couple who are freshly minted and who are excited about each other and who are, you know, having a great experience and they are able to maintain it. And I want to know, how are you maintaining this? How are you still doing this? It's been 9 months. Yes, it's still fresh. How are you keeping it fresh? All right. And are you playing? And what are you doing to maintain that? If they're not doing anything, well, what are you doing now that keeps it? Because that's what you need to do to continue to keep it. Too many times you're climbing that mountain and you haven't been on it. And so now you're trying to rekindle the relationship. But guess what? You're at that steep part where people say, no, it's too hard. It's too difficult. I'm not doing it. Been there. Been there. Been there. It's not worth it. It's not fun. You know, I told you guys before, greatness in my life is non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. What that means is that when in a relationship, the fire can't stop. The momentum can't stop. If anything, throw some wood on that thing. And if it does start to rain, and it cover the fire, protect the fire. Ensure that the fire doesn't go out. Add more fuel to the fire. All right. But you got to, first thing I'm going to tell you, you got to make sure that you got the right kind of kindling. Don't try to start a fire and you ain't got the right kind of wood. You put the wrong wood in there, you start a fire. You may not like the smell that comes out. You may not like the flame that is produced. It may not be something that keeps you warm, but actually makes you cold. So make sure you got the right fire. You may need wood, but you start to use some charcoal. Well, you using charcoal may cause you to have some breathing issues where you should have been using wood. So make sure you're burning the right type of fuel, which means make sure you're with the right type of person. You know, I had a gentleman, we was talking and he said that, you know what, now I'm not even gonna talk about him. I'm gonna save him for a different one. But like Charlie Wilson said, it's so easy to love you. It's easy to love you because the way that I love you is the way you receive love. So if you're in that situation where the person doesn't receive love the way you give that love, you need to rethink the fuel, rethink the relationship. All right, because maybe that's not where you should be. Now, I'm not advocating divorce because that's everybody's own individual decision. But what I am saying is that if you had a fire at one point, go back and get it. It's going to be hard, but go back and get it if you can, if you got the right type of wood. Now, if you don't, make a decision. Make a decision. Just truth, y'all, just truth. So, hey, climb the mountain, but don't stop. Next time, don't stop. I will never stop climbing this mountain unless I move. And when I move, I'll find another mountain and keep it going. So y'all have a great day. And I'm going to Stone Mountain tomorrow.